It is Sunday night. We're talking a lot of baseball. We got a special guest on tonight, and Jack Caglianone just got called up. All coming up next in the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. Happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball Podcast. I am Scott Jenstad, joined by a special guest, the wonderful Paul Sporer tonight. We appreciate Paul jumping on. If you could please rate and review the podcast, we appreciate that. Helps us out a lot. I'm back in my office. For anybody who doesn't recognizes the room, there's no artwork up yet. Everything's painted a little bit. No, there's a lot of boxes over here, but back in the house, so we're doing well there. Paul, how is everything in your world? Thanks for jumping on. First of all, looking forward to it.
Thanks so much for having me on, Scott. It's great to be on. I'm actually just really happy for you, obviously, with everything that went down with the fires, for y'all to be back in and, close to whole. Obviously, going through all of that 4 months it's an eternity when you think about it, being
a long time.
Yeah, out of your house and dealing with all that. So I'm glad things are going well. Things are nice here in Austin. We went through a hailstorm, one of the worst I've ever been in. Car was all right, though. My car's in the driveway. It survived. But we're talking, the big marble. You know how marbles has like the big marble and then the little ones?
Yeah.
These were the big marble, and I'd never seen it that big. It was huge, and it sounded like we were under attack at one point.
This is like you got to stay inside then, right? Like
yes,
that's gonna hurt. Yeah. Okay.
No, that'd be hurting you.
That's like that old dropping pennies off the Empire State kind of thing. Like we'll go through someone's head, that's crazy.
It was intense. I couldn't believe it. Like I've always seen the internet stuff, and sometimes I wonder if they melt a few of them together and they get it to the size of a softball or whatever. But these, like I said, as the big marble coming down, that is intense. And we're like, are the house windows going to break? Thankfully, everything's pretty all right. We had a few neighbors checking out their cars. Think we all escaped pretty well, but it was nuts. It was nuts.
Yeah, you guys do storms for real in Texas. That's us California.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
No doubt there. So, it's fun to have you on. Obviously, you're really good. Really quick, let people know where they can find you. I think everybody that probably listens knows where to find you, but if they want to find your work, give me a quick 30 seconds on where they can do that.
Sure. Fangraphs is where I do my writing. I do a daily SP chart Monday through Friday. I've been doing some weekend ones. I don't put any commentary on there, just kind of rank the guys, just kind of ranking, shallow, medium, deep league recommendations for starting pitchers. We've got the Sleeper and the Bus podcast. I'll have my first in-season starting pitcher ranking update coming up soon. I think we're pretty due here. If I was better prepared, I'd have it tomorrow, right at the beginning of June here, but probably going to be sometime during the week before I head out to Charlotte to watch the Savannah Bananas. You can find me on social media at Sporer, Blue Sky, and Twitter. I'm not on either all that much, but I'm pretty gettable. I stream on Twitch at Sporer. I'm, like I said, I'm in the comments of my articles as well. So if you ever have a question about a pitcher, I try to be open to answering anybody.
You still play MLB The Show on there, or is that
not as much? I don't have as much time because I basically have a second full-time gig at Out of the Park Baseball where I create the content for their perfect team game, and so there's just not as much time for other video games as I would like. I would like 30 hours in a day. Those extra 6 would really help me out.
My wife asked me the other day, what can you help you? I'm like, I don't know, give me like 3 extra days this week.
It'd just be so clutch. Honestly, I shouldn't even be greedy. I'll take 1 extra hour. Give me 25 a day.
I take 25 a day too. So we're going to talk some FAAB. It's not quite as big as a FAAB period. I wanted to ask you about Jack Caglianone. He got called up about 5 minutes after the FAAB deadline. Although we talk a lot of FBC, most leagues either drafted and held or he's not available yet. So probably not a lot. The draft, the FAAB on him will be next week, and we were talking a little bit off air, but if he hits 3 home runs, this is going to be the biggest FAAB guy. If he hits 3 home runs this week, it's going to be huge. I hope he does. It'll make it fun, good content for us on the podcast too. How do you kind of feel about him? Obviously, a huge prospect, 6th overall pick coming out of Florida last year. We all saw all the clips last year during college baseball season. Hit bombs, eluding bat, but started a little bit kind of okay and just been red hot recently, tearing up AAA in a big way. He's got 6 home runs in 11 games at AAA. How do you feel about this as a call up? I mean, obviously the Royals need power. They have so little power. Makes a lot of sense. How do you feel about him? Kind of in a fantasy wise. So we're talking a 4-month season. What do you think? What are you expecting from him?
There's obviously going to be a lot of upside with Jack Cags, and it's quite fitting that the College World Series is getting going with the regionals, and he gets called up because he was an amazing college player. Yeah. Think about when Nick Kurtz came up. Took a little time to get going. It's very unfortunate, by the way, that as soon as he got going, he got hurt.
He was
he finally ripped, 5 homers. It took him a little while to get that first. I think we could see some of that up and down with Cags where when it's off, it could be really ugly. So there could be some streaks where he isn't really doing all that well. I have been impressed with the strikeout rates as a pro. They haven't been as gaudy as we were all kind of worried about. I do still think that at least early career, there's probably a 25% plus strikeout rate waiting for us as he waits, for his pitches, tries to get to his power, has some patience, but the upside is just too rich not to be in on Jack Cags. That sort of power is game changing. That's not a terrible park to hit in. It does stifle homers, but it improves everything else. And he's got that big boy power. You saw what Sporer did to that. He's got that kind of power. So long-term, short-term, you got to be in on Jack Cags everywhere. Here's the thing. We said it'd be awesome if he hits like 3 homers and then the price is crazy. I would pull away at that point because I don't want to pay the triple digits. But even with a bunch of money spent already, we would easily see triple digits if he goes crazy this week.
Yeah, especially in the 15-teamers. There's still always it started to, there's always like 3 or 4 teams that still have a ton. You look and you're like, oh, this guy still have $780 or $820. There's so many teams who have not, or, everything's gone well and they haven't had to spend it yet. There are people that need power, no doubt. Anybody at the bottom 5 of your league of power has got to go big for this guy. It's going to be really interesting to see what he does this week. But I think the key thing you said was the strikeout rate. Like, we get guys that are 26, 20, 27% in the minors. You're like, that's going to be like 31, 32%, 34%. You're right. I think that 25 to 28, maybe if we bump it up for the minor leagues numbers, but you can survive with that. You can survive with that strikeout rate for sure with the pop. I mean, it's going to be fun. As a baseball fan, I just love when guys like this got called. It's going to be fun watching. It's one of those things. I rarely turn into Royals games unless Bobby Witt's up. And, now maybe you're sticking around for a couple batters if Jack Cags is coming up.
Absolutely. And it couldn't be a better fit. They have turned their offense around a bit from where it was in April. They're still not a huge threat, a team that you would run away from streaming wise or anything, but they're not bottom of the league. This could be the perfect infusion that they need. I'm still of the mind that Sal Perez is going to fully regress back to his mean. So he's got some juice coming. So they could be a bit of a summer force. Things going to start heating up in KC. I wouldn't be surprised. And as a Tigers fan, I don't think anything is signed, sealed, and delivered with their division title. So I'm looking over my shoulder at the Guards, Twins, and Royals.
Yeah, and the Royals are like 1 game out of the wild card. They're right in that mix. There's about like 7 or 8 teams are kind of right around between 5 games over 500 and like 3 games under 500. So it's a good time for them. Can go on a little bit of a run. They're right in that mix, so it should be fun. But I want to ask you some relevant fantasy questions for this week. Some drop stuff, some ad stuff. Ryan Walker, Giants closer. If you got him as I did, I may have done so in one main event. It was a high price. It was like a 5th or 6th rounder. I forget exactly what it was. He kind of got to mid 5th round by the middle of March. For a good reason. He was really good last year. It looked like it was clear his job. I don't think any of us thought Camilo Doval would have 21 straight scoreless outings. This feels to me as much about Doval earning it as Walker losing. Walker's not been to the point where you can't take the job away from him, but I feel like Doval's really earned this. But what do we do with Ryan Walker in fantasy wise? I realize that his 5th, 6th price doesn't matter anymore. That's a sunk cost at this point. But do you drop him? Are you holding him? It's a 4.87 ERA, but you look at his other numbers. His FIP is 2.84. His xERA is 3.32. He's been really unlucky with the strand rate, 60% left on base. So tough there. Still got a lot of ground balls. The swing strike rate's way down, which is kind of the biggest concern for me with him. He's at 8% right now. The strikeouts are way down. That's the one thing where I'm like, something's going on here. But what do you do if you're a fantasy manager here? Say it's use a 15-team example, so a pretty deep league. Did you hold him today? Would you have dropped him? Are you just going to bench him? Obviously not starting him, but what do you do with Ryan Walker at this point?
I think it's pretty easy binary that if I landed on somebody else already, if I had landed on like Emilio Pagan or somebody like that, and I say that as personal experience because I did, but if I'd spiked somebody, if you're riding like a Luke Weaver, if you've got something else, I can understand cutting if you need the spot. Maybe you're running some ILs and you don't want him as your stash. I kind of like to keep one closer stash. I cut Lucas Ursay because he got hurt. I would probably pick up Walker if he gets cut, just because, Duvall himself also isn't exactly dominating. That's the thing with both of them here. And you're right. Like when you put up that many scoreless outings, though, you're doing something right. Sure. And what I mean by not dominating is that he doesn't have like that 30% type K rate. Like he's been good, and I don't want to like undercut Duvall, but 24% K, 10% walk, that's not that great. It's just not. And so I do think that there is still a little bit like, as he might regress back toward the mean there, the door could reopen. So I'd be reluctant to just completely throw away Walker. I think he could have a chance to get back in. He had a really awful run there in like mid to late April, another couple outings early on. But basically over the last couple weeks, he has straightened himself back out. It's that swing and miss that you talk about with Walker that is particularly concerning. So not somebody I'm racing out to get and going crazy, but as somebody who runs at least one closer stash, because I only have one big closer in each main, Walker would be a contender. And I think he will get cut in a bunch of, I think he did. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I bet he did get cut a bunch this week.
Yeah, I held him this week. Just kind of what you were saying. Like, I don't know that I'm completely convinced that Doval's gonna hold it, but my concern with Walker is he pitched a 6th inning the last 2 days. So it's not like they're like, oh, you know, he came in for Birdsong in the 6th today. It's not like they're like, oh, you're just going to swap their roles and Walker's going to pitch the 8th, Doval's going to pitch the 9th. That hasn't happened. So it's just one of those things that, you know, but Doval's been really good. I think you just got to give him credit when you give up that many, you know, that few runs over this amount of time. Like you said, you got to give him credit. He's been really effective, not giving up hits. His BABIP's 153 though. Like at some point that's going to come back a little bit. You know, his career BABIP is about 290. 153 is really huge, but yeah, he's earned it. I think his leash is pretty good right now. I'm holding Walker for a week, but if it looks like he's pitching 6th, 7th inning again, I think he's probably a drop for me next week. I just kind of wanted to watch the situation for one more week before I decided.
I think that makes sense. And 23 mains did cut Ryan Walker. I expect a few to get picked back up next week for people who are doing a closer stash.
Yeah, and it'll be a cheap ad depending on what happens this week. Obviously, it'll go way up if something happens to Doval or anything like that. But so I want to ask you about Tampa Bay. I know you know, I get the WRC plus on Chandler Simpson. I get he doesn't have any power, but from like a baseball perspective, he was exciting. He stole 5 bags this week before he got demoted. Were you surprised they sent Chandler Simpson down?
Absolutely, I was. I thought he was doing enough to kind of stick around, you know, and again, like you said, you're going to look at like an OPS plus, WRC plus, and it's really not going to come off the page. But most of that is basically just another way of saying he didn't have any power.
Yeah.
But what kind of power were you expecting? Like he's never really going to super shine in a category like that. The 315 OBP, I'm not going to sit here and say that that's great, but he is game changing. He's got those game changing tools that game changing tool with that speed there. And again, I just thought he was doing enough, but one of my guys that I was really keen on this week, Jake Mangum, was a big reason why. We've seen Cameron Meisner, who did well in Mangum's stead when Mangum was on the IL. He's been doing well, and Josh Lowe came back. So there really wasn't a lot of room at the end. He isn't really producing when he hits. He is just more of kind of a game changer. He's more of a Terrence Gore luxury right now that Tampa Bay can ill afford to have because they need to use all 26 roster spots way more than the luxury of having like a pinch runner on the team.
I thought we had agreement if you come on the show, nobody mentions anybody who played the 2016 wild card game.
That should be that. Yeah, I didn't look at the fine print.
I thought you signed something earlier.
It's in there. Yeah,
no
that's on
me. Terrence Gore or Alberto Callaspo or anybody in that realm. Yeah.
I didn't read that. I knew better than to bring up Alcides Escobar, but I forgot that it goes for the whole roster.
Oh, Terrence Gore. Oh my God, that game was a nightmare. But
really was.
I agree. I was just surprised. I know everybody. Everybody's like, oh, well, he's just a fantasy guy stolen bases. I'm like, yeah, but he's hitting 285. Teams still care about this. I know the OBP is only 315, but you know, you look at defensive metrics. Apparently, he's not very good on defense either. And you watch him; he doesn't take the best routes. You think he would be that fast? He kind of make up for that. But you know, if the defense was elite, maybe he would have stuck. But I think we'll see him back. Fantasy wise, do you cut Chandler Simpson? What do you do with him in a fantasy league right now?
I hope somebody does. Please,
he was
cut
in my main event tonight.
Oh my God, I'm so desperate for speed. In both of my mains that I would absolutely pick him up. I wouldn't. Again, that could be colored. There are only 3 mains here that Chandler Simpson was cut in. That could be colored by my own personal situation, but generally I'm going to try to hold here. Now I see somebody picked up Parker Meadows for him. Okay, that's an interesting pickup. Jake Fraley. I am a Jake Fraley Rakes Daily fan, but I don't know. He's just so dynamic when he's there. I know it's very Billy Hamilton-esque because he really wasn't bringing anything else, but he will be back. You know, the next outfield injury, he's right back up, things like that for Chandler Simpson. It's just too many steals. And so, yeah, I'd be trying really hard to keep him. I'd have to be on a real roster crunch of IL stashes.
If you need steals, come over to my Vegas main because he was dropped and Victor Scott was dropped.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I could. I don't even know that I can necessarily take on the empty bats, but I'm really on the precipice of falling behind in steals to the point where I almost have to punt if I don't make a move quickly here. So I really am hoping the aforementioned Jake Mangum can be that difference maker for me.
Speaking of stolen bases, we're talking about a guy right now that has 21 of them. Luis Robert
Mhm.
Jr. has 21 steals but only 5 home runs. We talked about him about a month ago on the show. He's hitting a $180, and we're kind of like, oh well, maybe it'll turn around. He's still hitting a $180. It is not turned around. He is still striking out a ton. Strikeout rate's about 30%. It's down a little bit from what it was earlier, but what do you do with him in terms of lineup? I think you're not dropping again. You're not dropping this guy because there's just obviously a lot of upside. I mean, guy with 38 22 years ago. But are you at the point now? It's June 1st. Where you draft him doesn't matter. Again, kind of like we mentioned with Ryan Walker. But are you benching Luis Robert Jr.? Do you just leave him in there for the stolen bases? I mean, he's on a pace for what, 60, 55 stolen bases, something crazy like that. But man, a $182, 214 plate appearances in is pretty problematic.
It really is. And so it does make it a difficult dynamic to keep running Luis Robert out there. I think it has to be totally team dependent here. I don't think we can give general advice that's going to fit everybody, because you really have to look at your standings. Where can you gain in steals versus where is he going to take from you in batting average? Because he is going to take from you because he plays every day, and it's 1 for 4, 0 for 4. It's over 4 for 4 days and then a 1 for 4. And then if he gets on base via a fielder's choice ground out, then he steals 2 bases to make up for it. So if I need those steals, I probably would still be playing him. I just got done talking about how desperate I am. But if he's just taking the same points away from you in batting average, then it's not worth it. So you got to do the math. You really have to sit down and see where it's at. Again, I wouldn't cut. I agree with you, even if you're not using Robert all the time, because if he clicks in, he is still dynamic. He has the chance to be dynamic. I know we didn't see it last year, and we haven't really seen it this year. But when you got 21 steals, I would take a 220 average, but that's a 40-point improvement right now. So, hold 1,000%, but probably don't start everywhere unless you can afford the batting average bludgeoning.
Man, OBP for Robert, 278 last year, 269 this year. That's bad.
Good Lord. I mean, when he was at his peak, the 2023 season, it was only 315, which is what just got what's his face sent out. Now, I'm not comparing him. I'm not comparing Chandler Simpson to him 1-to-1. I'm just saying the OBP, because 542 slug versus like 318 slug for Simpson. But
the crazy thing is Robert's 269 OBP with an 11% walk rate this year too.
That's the most nuts part, is that he's actually having some patience. He's just not hitting. What is his BABIP? Has to be nothing, right? 246.
I
mean, that is low.
It is.
But I would have expected it to be even lower with this.
Yeah, me too. That's why I looked at it when you said that, because I'm like, oh, it's probably going to be like 212 or something like that. But
here's the thing. I was out on him 100%. I didn't draft Luis Robert anywhere. I wasn't interested in it. I'd pick him up so fast if he was cut, even in like a 12-teamer, because, again, even the rally to 220, which I think he can get to, could be pretty hot with all these steals. So I'm kind of intrigued by him. I might even try to buy in like a trade league where you're desperate for steals. If that team has an abundance, go get Robert.
And that's the funny thing the difference between draft season and in season, because I was out. I'm out. I've been out on Luis Robert for a few years. I just don't think he's a very good hitter at the moment. But if somebody dropped him, I would be in pretty heavily, pretty aggressively right away. I mean, the upside's there. The stolen bases are already there. But it's been bad. Before we get to FAAB, there's a question directly for you in the chat, Paul. Parker Meadows. We're going to talk about him in FAAB, but if he gets called up, is he going to be an everyday player and hit leadoff? You are the Tigers fan, so that's why I stopped and went to you.
I think that he will. I think they will reinsert him there. I know it's been Kerry Carpenter 1. I think they might just Meadows at the top, bump everyone down type of vibe. I like what they're doing with the Kerry Carpenter at 1, kind of a Kyle Schwarber type of vibe there. I think that's cool, but this would give a different dynamic. I do think Parker Meadows would get the opportunity. At the very least, I think he'd play pretty much every day with the occasional sit versus lefties, because they are going to play their platoons, and Javier Baez has been so good. So I can't commit to everyday play for Parker Meadows unless he's just totally dialed in. But as he works back from injury, I would expect more of a 4 or 5 times a week situation there, especially if there's multiple lefties.
How do you feel about him as a fantasy ad then going forward for these 4 months?
Pretty excited, because, again, you're talking about power, speed, the capability to really change the game. And as he plays into his health and gets going, he could be that everyday guy. And then other guys are getting platooned out when the lefties show up. So there's just too much upside there with Meadows, especially in like the 15-team universe, to not be interested.
Someone asked in the chat, should they pick up Royce Lewis in their league? Got dropped. Royce Lewis is hitting a $130 right now, Paul. It's crazy of hitting a $130 with a 14% strikeout rate too. You talk about BABIPs, his is a $140. That's the Luis Robert. You were joking around. Royce Lewis is a $140 with a 41.5% hard hit rate, I would pick up Royce Lewis. For sure.
Crazy to cut him. I'm sorry that even in the shallower league, I know we talk a lot of 15 team, but even in your 12s, even in your 10s, I don't think I'd have cut Royce Lewis. I'm a big Royce Lewis stan. I want to put that on the table, but this is 75 plate appearances. This to me is a literal nothing sample. I take absolutely zero from this sample. I would still be fully in. My opinion of Royce Lewis has not changed at all from the preseason, and it was very strong. So I'd pick him up anywhere.
Oh, for his last 28.
That's really brutal. It's an ice cold streak right now, but when he dials in,
I'm a big fan too. He hit 8th today. That's crazy. That's
wow.
Between him and McLean and Marcus Semien, I didn't think all three guys would be hitting 8th on June 1st. It's kind of crazy.
Did you go sort through like all my opinions from the spring and find guys that I liked that are terrible? I liked all three of those dudes quite a bit. I promise
I would never do that to you, but that's funny that it worked out that way. What should the Red Sox do with Christian Campbell? This is a guy that we all were excited about when he made the team out of camp. He moved way up in drafts. He actually started out pretty well. Like the first couple of weeks, he looked really fun. You look at this minor league stuff, you're like, this is a speed power combo guy that I want to get a part of. He is hitting a .134 with a 31% strikeout rate in May. So really, really bad after a really pretty good April for his first month in the majors. Strikeout rate overall is 28%. He's about 25% April, 31% now. You think he needs like a 2 to 3 week go down to the minors and kind of chill out and figure it out kind of thing? Would you let him kind of work through this? What do you think the Red Sox do here? And what do we do fantasy wise with him too?
I think we got to be on the cusp of a send out, which will make it tough to hang on to him. They do have players that they can turn to. You know, obviously it's not a 1-to-1 where Roman Anthony would take the second base spot, but you know, you have somebody like David Hamilton, you have somebody like even say Don Raffaello who can move into the infield too. So they can maneuver some things around to where that could be a 1-to-1 move there. Yeah, you can't let this go too long. And I'm not saying that he's like, you know, losing his confidence or anything like that. This is a cold streak. Welcome to the bigs, kid. This is how it goes. And what happens when those happen? Kids usually get sent out. I hate to bring it up again, but we just saw this with Chandler Simpson. This is the same kind of vibe. We're like, there's some numbers on the board. He isn't embarrassing himself, but this is a team that is trying to contend. I know things haven't gone great for them, but they're only 29 and 32. They're fully in the mix. If you're only 3 games under 500, you're not out of it at all. They can't let this linger forever. I think another week of this ugliness and Campbell's out.
I think so too. 301 in March and April, 128 in May. I think it's one of those things the league's adjusting to him. He's got to figure out a way to adjust back. But I think, and I don't even think it's like you're playing so bad you need to go down. I think it's like you need to just kind of get the mental break for 2 weeks and kind of
get the feeling of success again.
Yeah.
I could see it being like a 5-game thing where he comes back so fast because somebody goes on. It could be one of those quickies for Christian Campbell.
I wanted to get into next week, but I had one quick stat for you that I still can't believe. Do you know that Michael Conforto's last hit with runner in scoring position was in March?
I believe it.
March.
Only make me feel better for cutting him. I was really excited about him. You know, anytime you get a piece of a great lineup cheap,
Paul,
like the Dodgers lineup.
It's June. There were only like 4 games in March.
It's literally insane. Like he has 9 ribbies. He's terrible.
On the Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. Where you just
not 9 ribbies on the Rockies and the White Sox. Like you bloop a ball into the center, that's a RBI. There's always someone on base.
You ground out to the right side of the infield. There was probably a runner on third 95% of the time. Like it is absolutely crazy. Conforto has been so bad. You know, I understand why people are picking him back up. See if he gets back going again. He's just been ice cold for 200 plate appearances. So, you know, in the grand scheme, that's still a small sample, but for our purposes in season, that starts to be something. And that's why I cut him a while ago, because I just was getting nothing from him. And I kept playing him kind of like, oh, it's going to turn around. It's going to turn around. And I kept getting bludgeoned with the batting average.
The craziest thing is he had 5 RBIs as of April 5th.
Got off to a fast start.
Which means
and we make
4 since.
We make so much of quote unquote fast starts too, that I'm sure we were like, you know, oh, Conforto's on track with the Dodgers. And it's like, no, he's not. Like, he's not. And he's all like, it's meaningless. And I know that that's bad fantasy analysis. And I whine about this every year. It's so hard to do fantasy analysis in April because the real answer is like, none of it means anything. It's fun to watch. Let's have a good time, but none of it means anything. And we all want to like stamp our grades from the off season. And it's like, there's just so much that's going to change. But yeah, Conforto got off to a fast start. You're thinking this is going to be a great pick. And he's been one of the worst players in baseball.
So between April 5th and May 26th, He had one
That's a
RBI.
long time.
One. One. I'm looking at this. I don't even believe it because he had 3 the last 3 days, 1 each day, and then he had 5 on April 5th. He had 1 RBI in the middle of that. That is
like you said on the Dodgers, and
impossible.
I see a 3-hit game in here and a 2-hit game the day before. So he had 5 hits in 2 days, and like what sort of bad luck? 3 of them were 4 of those 5 hits were doubles.
That's
and
crazy.
The fact that he did not drive in a run, like what bad luck do you have to have if you're Michael Conforto just for that 2-day period to not have driven in a run on the freaking Dodgers, y'all?
Wow. It's one of the craziest stat lines I can remember because he's played 52 games. Not even someone that's played 52 games, 52. It's wild. So, but let's jump into week 11 real quick. Just a couple of notes on the schedule. We've got 8 teams with 7 games. The White Sox, Twins, Tigers, your Tigers, the A's, Giants, Dodgers, Padres, the 3 bigs in the NL West, and then the Mets also have 7. We had some nice schedules. Again, we talked 2 weeks ago about the A's. Again, another 7-game all home week in Sacramento. Sacramento's lived up to the hype. Tampa Bay is not, believe it or not. If you look at park factors, Tampa Bay is like kind of right in the middle. I think it's a little bit up for home runs, but like in terms of like park factor scoring runs, it's like a 101 park factor, so kind of just right in the middle. I think it's like 11th in the majors, but Sutter Home is like 2nd or 3rd. Sutter Park? I don't know what the hell they call it.
Sutter Home Park. Or maybe Sutter Home Field, but Sutter Home, I think, is
I love Zach Wheeler. Just like, this mound sucks. Like, what am I doing here? It was so funny. I love it.
Is this Major League Baseball? Hello.
It's so bad. They have 7 home games this week: 4 against Minnesota, 3 against Baltimore. It's warming up here. It was hot here today in Southern California. There's gonna be a lot of runs this week in Sacramento.
No, it's great. And I have been liking that park, and I've been very careful with taking pictures in there to the point where, it's not quite aces only, but if you're struggling or if you're a home run guy, I think you sit at the Athletics because they've cooled down a little bit, but on any given night, when you're a home run guy, that is scary. Like to me, in a way, just because of the way it elevates the homers, Sutter Health. We were both wrong. It's Sutter Health. Sutter Health.
You don't know how proud I am that I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, right. Screw that.
I'm loving my lack of knowledge there too.
We absolutely don't need to know that. But in a way, I'm almost more afraid there than I am at Coors. Because Coors homer, like it's not homers, and they have to like hit the ball to punish you. The Rockies do, and we know how bad they are.
Yeah, facing the Rockies makes a big difference there.
So like I'm almost, it's not quite. I still kind of fear Coors a little bit more just because it's Coors and we have 25, 30 years of history. But Sutter Health is scary, y'all. You need to be very careful going up against the A's with your middle and back end starters.
Yeah, so you look at it, Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez have 2 starts. So
they got to go.
Slam dunks there. Do you throw a Zebby Matthews and 4-inning Bailey Ober at the right now?
See, this is a perfect example of what we need to talk about here because I love both of those guys. I'm fully in the tank for both, and I think both are sits. Their big flaw, the fatal flaw of all Minnesota pitchers. I'm nervous about Ryan and Lopez, but you cannot sit them, not in a 2-step week especially. But they all give up homers. They're all good strikeout to walk guys because they pound the zone, they get strikeouts, but they live in the zone and they give up homers. I worry about Zebby and Bailey. I would try to sit both. I really, really would.
Yeah. Ober's a little tougher because it's kind of one of your guys. You took him early, but yeah, you're right. Right now, he threw 4 innings today. I think it was today or yesterday. He threw 4 innings. He's been
Rocco.
a little. His Rocco. His ERA is only like 3.7. So like not like Ober's been bad, but it's just he's been frustrating. He's had a couple blowups, and he's really good for a while, but there's just no depth to his starts really.
And that's the thing too, because now you're talking no win since May 3rd because he's gone over 5 innings twice. And that's a real problem as well. So like the homers are down a bit, and I haven't investigated this, but maybe part of the homer issue was the 3rd time through sort of situation. And so they're really trying to mitigate that. But I thought he was in that Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez class where Bailey Ober was going to be able to go more of the 6, and that the 4-5 starters were going to be the ones who were on the 4-5 inning leash, much tighter than that. I will say this: Bailey Ober does have a 2.43 ERA since the 8 earned runs on opening day, or on his opening day, I should say, 3rd game of the year. So he has been good. It's going to be really difficult to sit him in a 15. So I do grant that, but you might just have to hold your nose and go for it. But this is the kind of spot where he could get really, really trounced. In fact, all 4 of those Minnesota pitchers do have some risk this week.
Yeah, I'm pretty worried about the 18.5 strikeout rate with Ober right now.
Yeah. That's another thing too. He's not even quite himself the way he was in previous years, where you could at least think that the K's are going to save him. So it's a little bit dodgy with both them. Again, the 2-start on Ryan and Pablo, you can't bench them in a weekly league, but you should be a little bit nervous about their starts too.
Yeah. A couple other good weeks. The Yankees are home for 6. They'll be flying home from Dodger Stadium, where they did get the win tonight, avoided the sweep. But they have 3 home against Cleveland, 3 home against Boston. Good park to hit, but maybe not. Maybe a couple tough pitches in there.
Against Boston, which means, sorry to interrupt you, but they're going to be on national all 3 games next weekend too, then, the way they were against the Dodgers.
Is that Sunday Night Baseball next week?
I would bet every nickel I have. I don't know. I would bet every nickel I have.
In the old days, it would be like a slam dunk, right?
Let's see. Yeah. I would love to be surprised.
4:00 ESPN, Boston at New York next Sunday night.
There's just no amount of money I wouldn't have bet on that. And they'll be on Fox on Saturday.
Yep.
And they'll probably be on Apple on Friday night. So I don't always watch the Apple games anyway, because they kind of piss me off. I do have access to it, but it's kind of annoying that we have to have that. But yeah, they'll be featured all 3 games for sure.
Those Apple cameras are awesome though.
Oh yeah, no, there's good elements. It's just, do I have to have another thing? Do I have to have another thing?
I flipped out Dodgers Yankees on Friday night. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really, really freaking clear. It was pretty impressive.
I don't love their interface either, but I like the cameras. I even like some of the little cheeky little stats that they do, the little probabilities that they do.
I kind of like how it changes. It goes from 2-0 to 2-0 to 2-1 too. It's kind of cool.
There's elements I like. I just don't like the notion of having to get another thing.
I feel like we should have had Cubs Tigers next Sunday night though. What a game.
I'm telling you, how great would that be? That could have been fireworks too, the way those 2 offenses are going. Flaherty v. Cade Horton, the crafty veteran versus the young up and comer. That would have been nice.
15 and 18 games over 500. Give me that game for sure. So
that would have been a blast.
Real quick, couple of good teams. The Mariners have a good setup. They get the Orioles pitching for 3 games. They get the Angels pitching for 3 games. Both really good spots there.
Very nice.
Mets have a nice schedule. So they're 4 at Dodger Stadium, but the Dodgers pitching is pretty much all hurt. But they get May, Kasperius kind of spot, opener, then Kershaw, then Gonsolin, and then they get 3 at Colorado. So good week for the Mets too.
Very nice. Yeah, that'll be a good setup there. I'm sorry, I'm looking here. Seattle, by the way, has weirdly kind of flipped their split. When they first got going, it wasn't just Polanco, by the way. He was carrying the team, but it wasn't just him. They were crushing righties. They've regressed against righties, but then dialed up against lefties. So there's still an offense to be careful of. You still don't want to just throw anybody against Seattle the way it was last year. So your Sagano, Povich, Eflin trio for Baltimore, you want to be a little careful there. I'm an Eflin guy. I'm starting him, but Povich and Sagano, I'm a little bit more nervous about.
It helps when your catcher hits 4 or 5 home runs a game. That helps the cause.
I love that guy. And I think I had him ranked. I didn't do the catcher ranks on the website, but for my own personal ranks, I think I had him ranked 3rd or 4th. And it's weird to have somebody ranked 3rd or 4th and be completely off, because I was dead wrong on Raleigh.
Yeah, we're obviously talking about Cal Raleigh, who has 23 home runs now after today.
He's awesome.
Unbelievable. You look at his hard hit, his barrel rate's 24%. That's a wild number. And I feel like he just hits jacks. The one he hit last night was up in his eyes and he still hit it out. I was like, this dude just
switch hitting catcher
beyond locked in. It's crazy.
Who also rules behind the dish.
Yeah.
He should be an MVP candidate. I know we're going to look at the WAR and all that, but this is an MVP candidate. I'm biased toward catchers. I played catcher. I didn't play for anything, middle school and 1 year high school. But when I played, I was a catcher. I love that position. A switch hitting, badass hitting catcher who's also amazing defensively. How do you not like Cal Raleigh? One of my favorite players.
Has a 380 OBP right now.
That's unreal. Oh yeah, that's the thing too. He's dialed up his walks from 11% last year to 15%. I'm sure he's getting pitched around more because they're scared.
Yeah, it should be.
6 sneaky steals too, matching his total from all of last year.
Yeah, 23 bombs and 6 steals for your catcher is at the end of the year, I want those stats no matter what. And it's June 1st.
Yeah, he could. I don't want him to, but he could miss the rest of the year, and you could not complain that he ruined your season.
Yeah,
he gave you a full season already, except for the runs and ribbies, of course.
But 23 and 6, crazy good. So let's jump into a few news and notes before we talk about FAAB. Real quick here, there's a bunch of people asking in the chat. I want to talk about Corbin Burns. Left the game early today. I saw 4 2/3. I'm like, another guy who had a Zambrano out there and he got pulled. And I realized he got hurt. It really sucks. He is my SP1 on my main event team that's in first place in this league right now. So this is not a good day for me. The lip reading was not good. He pretty much said my elbow's done to the trainer. You could see lip reading. The concern from the manager was more than minimal, but I think you saw Burns' interview after the game. He was like, "Oh, I got some tightness. I've never had this before." He didn't seem quite as like the sky is falling as he did during the game, maybe. But he's having an MRI on Monday, and I'm super worried about this one.
The one thing, and what really sucks is he was really dialing in too.
He was. He struck outside the first and was like, it was starting to look good, and now it's just.
It was like, here we go, and continuing a hot May that included 2 Dodgers starts where he went 7 in both and gave up 3 total earnings. So he was really hitting a high gear. The strikeouts still weren't all the way back, and I know Jeff really hit on that early in y'all's preseason previews, which was fair, and that was a critique that I had of Burns, but he was putting up the ratios, and he was great. Here's the thing that will be the trigger for me if he seeks a second opinion.
Oh, it's never a good thing.
Never gone well. So if I hear that, it's an insta cut. Anything beyond that, I got to hold for Burns. Obviously, it does really suck, though. It sucks for the Diamondbacks. It sucks for fantasy folks. I think you're in a holding pattern until you hear either, obviously, conclusive news one way or the other, or second opinion. You can get the jump on it because second opinion, never good.
Yeah, 27.5% strikeout at May too. So like this, I know the strikeouts aren't all the way back, but they have been back. They have been back this month. He's been really good this month. It's really disappointing. He was kind of a little bit all over the place in April, and I was watching him. I'm like, oh man, this pick's gonna hurt me. And then he's been really good in May. For a second this afternoon, I was like, oh my gosh, he said my elbows. I'm gonna have to think about cutting him. And I saw the interview. I'm like, there's no way I'm cutting him yet. I need an MRI. I'm not expecting to be great, but there's no way I'm cutting him until next. There's no. I think you have to hold him for a week.
You have to. You're being too cute to try to push with Burns to cut him ahead of time there, based on a lip reading there of him saying my elbow's shot.
Yeah. A few other quick notes here before we get into FAAB. Kyle Tucker left today's game early with a jammed right ring finger. X-rays were negative. Obviously, that's one you're going to want to see if he's in the lineup. The Cubs play. The Cubs do not play tomorrow, so we'll have to wait until Tuesday to get some more news there. But at least the X-rays negative is a good sign there. Less good sign, Yordan Alvarez. Second year in a row, speaking of Kyle Tucker, the Astros apparently just missed a fracture when they're doing imaging. They said it was he was too swollen when they did the imaging. I don't know why they didn't wait till the swelling goes down to the imaging, which they usually do. But
aren't they the professionals? Like they should know that.
When I hurt my shoulder, my doctor's like, we can't MRI it because it's too swollen. So, and I'm a nobody who it didn't matter if I had my shoulder okay. And like Yordan's their best hitter on a Major League Baseball. It's wild, but. Imaging Friday revealed a fracture in his hand. He's shut down until that's healed. Apparently, it's 60% healed was the report I saw. But this is bad. I mean, he had started to kind of hit again, and then I felt that. This has turned into a mess pretty quickly.
Yeah, it really has. And again, you mentioned, you harken back to the Tucker situation last year, and it's like, what's going on here? Do we need a shakeup in the medical system there for the Astros to get their players healthier and better taken care of? It's a huge bummer. And this was the big concern with him is his health. He has the knees of like a 500-year-old, and just the body that Yordan Alvarez has, it is conducive to injuries. The problem is, and I'm not like hindsighting anybody and saying you shouldn't have drafted him, because the thing of it is when he's on, he's a god. And I know he hadn't fully dialed in yet this year, but I know when healthy, he's going to be a god. This is a hand injury. It has nothing to do with the knees. So I'm not saying that you should have known or anything like that. It just sucks because that is the one nitpick that not even a nitpick, but the one flaw of Alvarez is he going to play? He's never reached 150 games. He's only eclipsed 600 plate appearances once, which was last year, but he's just so good when he plays.
Someone asked Chad about Jack Cags. He is must pick up. Yes, we covered him earlier. Yes, must pick up. Do it. If you're in a league that you just pick up randomly as you go along. You don't have to wait for FAAB at the end of the week. Pick him up for sure.
Yep.
Mookie Betts has a mildly fractured fourth toe. I think they said tonight on the game. He stubbed his toe walking into furniture in the middle of the night, which is a thing we can all relate to, I think. But when you're Mookie Betts, it sucks. But expect to only miss a couple of days. They sound like he's not going to go on the IL. I'll believe that when I see him on the field. But especially the guy that plays shortstop actually has learned to play shortstop well, which is kind of a wild situation. The guy suddenly can play shortstop well. It's crazy he switched that. But I'd worry about his stolen bases for a while, probably more than anything. But not great news. But it seems like it's not going to be too long term on Mookie.
No, it doesn't look like it's going to be the end of the world, and hopefully not. He's just one of those guys who's good at everything.
Yeah.
Right. Like it just seems like Eventually, Mookie Betts going to figure it out. We all know about the bowling. He's probably one of those guys that can like
Except
play
for
ping
walking to
pong.
the bathroom at 2:45, apparently.
Except for navigating in the dark. We found something he's not that great at. And
Yep.
it's good to know that he's human,
Yeah.
but I do wish him the best. I absolutely love Mookie Betts, one of my absolute favorite players. Yeah, you know, at the NFBC where you got the split lineups, you can probably just bench for the first half, get him back in. You might miss something on Wednesday, so if you don't want to risk that, but you're probably going to take zeros for the other days there. So I would probably just sit the first half, except that I might lose something on Wednesday or Thursday, and then get Mookie Betts back in for the weekend.
That'd be my plan too. I think I would sit the first half as well. Christian Yelich left early Sunday with a hit by pitch to his hand. X-rays were negative there. Yelich has been a weird season so far. He already got 12 home runs and 10 stolen bases. Like, that sounds really good on June 1st. He's hit 233 with an OBP of 314 and a 26.5% K rate. Those are not Yelich-y numbers. What's your read on Yelich so far for the first 2 months?
Yeah, it's actually been really bizarre, you know, to see this with Yelich, some of these weird stat lines. You know, you talked about the one with Robert. Like, we're seeing some of these established players put up these really goofy kind of stat lines here. I'm definitely a lot more confident in where Yelich is at, though, and because you're getting the production on both ends, you know, you're only getting the steals with Robert. And again, 182 versus 233 on the average. One's a lot more palatable. So you've been disappointed by batting average from Christian Yelich, but you can't be upset about the double-double that you've got right now with 31 runs, 39 ribbies. So you just hope the hand isn't a huge deal. I think he's going to click in a bit more. I think I repeat this on my pod all the time and on other spots that I do. Like, I never want to just look at BABIP, and if it's low, say he's been unlucky, and if it's high, say he's been lucky. Doing the secondary analysis necessary, which I have done on Yelich, I think it's been an unlucky BABIP at 271. I think he's hitting the ball well enough, even if he's not at his best, that it's going to go back up as the season goes. I have no real concerns about him outside of this hand. Thankfully, X-rays negative, should be good to go.
Someone asked about Jack Cagg's eligibility. In NFBC, he is actually first base, not outfield. So it'll be first base to start, and maybe we'll see where he plays and kind of how he gets that eligibility built up. A couple of real quick notes on some guys on the IL. Nathan Eovaldi, who's having a really good year, went on the IL with some right tricep fatigue. Don't love that, but Kumar Rocker is going to fill in his spot this week, so that should be fun at least there. Dalton Varsho and Jordan Walker, some 2023 hype guys right there, both on the IL. Left hamstring strain for Varsho, left wrist inflammation for Walker. Ryan Mountcastle and Miguel Andujar. Andujar likely to hit the IL. Mountcastle went on the IL with a right hamstring strain. Has had a bad year so far. He's only goes 1 or 2 home runs so far. The one I want to ask you about is Adolis Garcia. He's been sitting for a quote-unquote mental break. That's what Bruce Bochy called it. Not only missed the whole weekend, he hasn't played since Wednesday. It's kind of wild. He's had a really rough year. This is not, you don't really see a mental break for this long in the middle of the season when you're not on the IL or anything like that.
No, it is kind of interesting to where they're like, letting him just take days off there. In the grand scheme, it ends up being pretty small, but like when we're living it day to day, we're like, this guy's not playing. What's going on? Why isn't he playing? Because it's been 3 days in a row, like you said. So he hasn't played since Wednesday. But it has been a rough season. So, maybe they realize we're not going to send him out. That's not going to fix anything. That's probably just going to create more problems than it's worth. Plus, he's got to be on actually, he still has an option left, even at age 32.
They're not sending him out.
That's what I'm saying. Right, So they're not sending him out, right? Like, he's too established of a player for that these last 4 years. So the mental break is what makes sense here. He doesn't really have an injury that they want to put him on the IL for, like a phantom one. I understand this here. I think you got to hold the line with Adolis. You invested in him as a power speed guy. I think he can still be that dude. I've never been the biggest fan, but I'm not going to be that guy who 3 years after I was wrong say, I told y'all, because no, I was wrong for 3 years on him.
Right. Yeah, it did. That the walk bump we saw in 2023 is pretty much fully gone now. He's back to 5%. So while you used to have the K rate's always kind of been the same the last 4 years, like kind of 26 to 28%, but the walks have fully gone away. So that like plate discipline we thought was coming, has gone the other direction now. He's hitting 208 right now. The BABIP's low. It's 248. It's not like it's Royce Lewis territory by any means. Still hitting the ball really hard, but just swinging and missing a lot.
Exactly. And so, we just got to kind of see where that goes.
Bryce Harper out again Sunday. Has not played since Tuesday, since Strider hit him with a pitch. It sounds like he is feeling better and going to play on, I think it's Tuesday, the Phillies play. They're at Toronto. So it sounds like he's going to be good to go for next week. Obviously, check your lineups there. In addition, Jazz Chisholm could be activated as soon as Tuesday as well. So another guy that I feel like his quotes, like his interviews, are just like taking stabs at Rafael Devers too. It cracks me up. He's like, "I'll play third base. I'm a team guy. Just tell me where to line up. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to win a ring." And I'm like, it's going right at Devers.
100%. Yeah. Like, I don't think I could be convinced otherwise.
No,
like, I 1000% think he's jabbing him.
And he feels like the guy that would like do that too.
That's what I'm saying. If it's
I kind of like it too. Yeah,
I do too. I'm fine with it.
Someone asked how long you hang on to Juan Soto. The answer is forever.
Quite literally until the end of the season, outside of him being out for
I was going to go
injury.
the next 15 years, like the Mets.
Yeah. Like you don't. There's nothing to do.
So let's talk about some FAAB. Like we said, it wasn't a huge week. Caglianone was not available in NFBC formats unless he was drafted and dropped, and then you didn't know he got called up until after. But talk to me about the Mariners call-up. Cole Young had the walk-off hit yesterday in his first game. I guess a walk-off. Yeah, it was like an infield single. How do you feel about Cole Young as a prospect? How do you feel about his playing time? Obviously, J.P. Crawford's going to play short. Young played second base the first two nights. What'd you do with Cole Young and FAAB? Were you interested? Were you not all that aggressive? What'd you do with him?
No, I am interested in Cole Young, big time prospect, legit prospect here for Seattle, kind of a do a bit of everything sort of guy. I don't think he really has a fantasy carrying tool. If it is, it's closer to the speed than the power. So I'd call him like a speed power guy versus what we normally say, which is power speed, just to differentiate that you should be expecting more steals than you are power. But it could be, kind of a modest batting average, kind of a sprinkling of everything. He has good plate skills. He should play every day. I like that he's playing over there at second base. I guess that means, Polanco DHing, of course, because he was never, even in his best, he was never a good fielder. That's why he's been the permanent DH this year. So I think this is definitely going to be an interesting player. He was a little bit lower on my list, and I got my number one guy who I've referenced a few times already this episode here, Jake Mangum. So I didn't get Cole Young. He was down the board, but I think he's going to end up being a fine pickup. Wow, I'm looking at one of my mains. He didn't even get picked up. That's kind of interesting. I don't know. I think a guy who's playing every day on a team that's playing pretty well is worth a pickup here. He's going to be bottom of the order. And like I said, it's going to be kind of a piecemeal accumulator production that he's going to give you. But at second base, that has some value, right? You don't have to clear a huge bar in the middle infield to be worthwhile. And I think Cole Young can bring some value. Yeah,
and nice. It'd be nice that he'll get shortstop and second base eligibility as soon as he plays the 10 games because he played. He's already shortstop eligible. Yeah, he was only added in 30 leagues. The bidding was very, very minor on him. The high was 38. Someone got him for $1 in a couple leagues, but nobody over 40. I was a little surprised there weren't a couple bids a little higher. Most of the bids were kind of in the 12 to 20 range.
I'm a little bit, surprised by that, at least in terms of the volume of leagues. The bidding range is fine. I didn't expect him to be crazy. I mentioned that I myself didn't have Cole Young super high in my list, but I would have thought he would clear 50 and go into like most of the leagues because,
me too.
Again, you're talking about an everyday player. So if he goes out, has a nice week, hits a homer, steals 2 bags, then we're going to see crazy bids next week. So this week was the week to get Cole Young at a discount, it looks like.
So talk to me about Jake Mangum, the guy that you picked up. He was up earlier in the year for the Rays, came back up. He got injured, then he came up when he was ready for Chandler Simpson. We mentioned earlier. Mangum is a batting average steal guy. We're not talking Chandler Simpson level steal guys, but probably a more locked in batting average guy. Doesn't strike out at all. Plays good defense. I like the profile here. He already had 8 steals in 23 games when he was up for the Rays before. This is a guy that I think kind of slots in most days for them and should run with maybe not gonna have a lot of power, but a few homers here and there, and then you get to get the batting average bump.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as much volume on the speed as Chandler Simpson, but it's a much more complete bat right now. And it should be. He's 29 years old. This isn't some, up and coming prospect. This is kind of a forgotten guy that still has some skills, kind of a late career bloomer here that I really like with Jake Mangum. And I loved what I saw out of him in his first 81 plate appearances before the injury with the 1 homer, 8 steals, and 329 average. Not going to stay anywhere near 329, but frankly, I'll take 260 and the bags. I talked about how speed starved I am for both my main events. I got Mangum in both because I think he can give you double-digit steals the rest of the way. Probably not at an 8 per 23 game clip. I don't think we should just extrapolate that. Right. But he stole 20 last year. He's been a double-digit guy coming up. Teams are clearly running more these days. The Rays are one of those teams they run plenty. So I really do think he can be like from here forward, he can be 15 steals the rest of the way, if not more. If he stays at a high clip with his hitting, let's say he keeps like a 340 OBP going. I don't know he's going to stay that high, but if Jake Mangum is putting a 340 OBP out there, he could be a 20+ steal guy the rest of the way. So I really like him. Never strikes out, like you said, ball in play, speedy, kind of do everything sort of guy, and a switch hitter. So shouldn't have to be platooned.
Yeah, and someone mentioned the chat. I was going to actually say it sounds like Johnny DeLuca had a pretty significant setback. He's not coming back anytime soon. The key is that really kind of locks in playing time for Mangum, which is important.
And that's who
DeLuca's going to come back and play some. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Because I had speculated on him when he was on the IL because, again, for the 5 billionth time, I'm speed starved. So I made that move. And then when he had the bad news, I said, okay, and Mangum's back now. It was an easy swap for me.
We talk about guys that sometimes we pick up in season we probably weren't in on draft season. I've been pretty out on Tyro Estrada.
Yeah.
With the Giants, I didn't love the hit tool there. I knew the stolen base was there. Last year was really weird for Estrada. He had 381 plate appearances, had 2 bats. I just don't think he was ever healthy last year. He had 23 the year before. I'll admit I got sucked in a little bit today. I was not high bidding, but I ended up with him in one main event. I saw he hit 4th and 5th for the Rockies the last 2 days. You give me a middle lineup hitter in Coors. I was a little bit interested. I needed a middle infielder. I dropped Brooks Lee, who's not really doing much for the Twins. I have some guys back, but I added Estrada. One thing, I don't love it. I'm not totally convinced he can hit, but it's a Coors hitter, and he's going to hit 4th or 5th. I'm kind of in on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think you still have to have some interest in Coors hitters. We know they're having just an utterly wretched season. Somehow worse than the White Sox. I can't believe we might see the record broken 2 years in a row. But Estrada,
did you see the stat today that since May 2nd, Scotty Scheffler has as many wins as the Rockies?
Oh my God. It's impossible.
Impossible.
They're so bad. And it starts at the top.
You can't win 3 games in a month in baseball.
No.
You can't. It's hard. You can't do it.
It's unreal. Some teams in college baseball have won 3 games this weekend to stay alive. Yeah, or 2 today, and they're going to play 1 tomorrow. Utterly insane. They're so bad. But Tyro Estrada did interest me a little bit going to Colorado. I was not big on him as a Giant. And in fact, after the breakout 2022, I faded him. He does it again in 2023. Instead of reversing course, I stayed out, and it worked. I don't do that just to backpat. It's just to point out that I was never a huge fan of his either. But like you said, the in-season context changes things. Yep. Now that I'm not expending draft capital and I'm just picking somebody up, I open up my barriers for entry way higher. Problem is I got pushed out quite a bit. 47 was the bid. 22 was the backup. I had an 18. So I was a bit lower. Again, I was focused on a couple other guys, but I did like him. I think Estrada can be solid. Or maybe the stink of Colorado just gets everybody. But I like people taking a shot on him. I think he's a worthy gamble. And
at this point, as a pickup, he's my backup middle, and I can use him. I can actually just use him in Coors weeks in the FBC. I just kind of get him out on the road, and if it doesn't work after a couple weeks, you drop him. But I thought it was worth a shot. I got him for 27. I was kind of fine with that. It was probably
no problem with that bid.
Probably in the middle. I'm looking at the bids here. It's probably in the middle, but he was added in more leagues than Cole Young. He was added in 41 leagues, so he was pretty popular. Speaking of the Rockies, someone pointed in the chat, Senzatella has more losses than the whole team has wins, which is wild too. He got double-digit losses before they got to double-digit wins. It's it's the stats are so absurd that it's ridiculous.
They're all they're somehow just worse than the White Sox. Everything about the White Sox last year sucked.
Yeah,
every stat you had sucked, and this is a good measure worse. It feels like everything about them sucks. The Rockies, except for their uniforms and their park and their fans. I got nothing wrong with their fans.
Yeah, the park's nice. It's a good park, but I mean, June 1st to not have double-digit wins in baseball is. I don't know. The only word I can think of is impossible because it can't happen.
Because it just doesn't happen. Yeah. You just back into wins because you play every day. You're a major league team. This is impossible, y'all. And we're watching it happen.
It's amazing. So we talked a little bit about Parker Meadows, kind of him and Evan Carter both coming back this week. I prefer Parker Meadows. I think I'm a little interested in Evan Carter, but I think I prefer more Parker Meadows. You agree there?
Yeah, I do agree. And it's not just my Tigers fandom. I'm actually a big Evan Carter fan, but I realize his limitations. First off, a degenerative back at his age is always worrisome. Yeah. But he also hasn't really showed much since that flash when he first came up in 2023. So yeah, we got to temper expectations there. I do still think that, he's 22. There's a long time with him. So in the grand scheme, I still quite like Evan Carter, but for a short term, I was hotter after Meadows where he was available.
Yeah, me as well. What about the Blue Jays outfield? Both Darton Varsho and Santander are out with injuries. Was there anybody you were looking there to add? Maybe a Jonathan Clase, Alan Roden coming back. He's been hitting well in AAA. Was there anybody there you liked as a deeper team add?
Clase was in the waterfall again. We're going to go to the speed piece there. He's got speed for days. His inability to consistently get on base has hampered him at times. He's a 324 OBP for his career in the majors and had been doing pretty well in 46 plate appearances so far this year. So we could see some speed dynamic from Jonathan Clase. Alan Roden was interesting to me in the offseason. Studying him, I actually didn't really know that much about him. And then he started to get some buzz in like DCs when he was making some noise. And I did some research. I was like, oh, this guy has just hit all the time. I do still think he can hit. And I think that if he gets this extended playing time here, I think Alan Roden is a worthy pickup. There's no way a 214 BABIP is legit. I think he'll regress toward the mean. I am curious to see if he gets his walks on track because he always took walks in the minors. 10, 12, 13, 14% range, 6% in his small sample in the majors. I wonder if that's like they're challenging him because he can't do any damage with it. And until he starts doing damage, teams won't be careful with Alan Roden. But I believe in him as a much better player than what we've seen. So I thought he was a nice pickup. I just didn't need what he offers, which is probably like a middling batting average, an occasional homer, and then middling runs and ribbies because Toronto's just not that good.
Yeah. Unless they play the A's and they score a bunch of
True. Runs. And not even in athletics, not even in Sutter Health.
The A's pitching is just insanely bad.
It is rough. Like they had some compelling guys early that I was like, this could maybe work. And then you talk about that park paired. And this one, again, wasn't even in that park. Yeah. Plus some guys that have turned over. And that's going to really hold them back from making any noise this year. They have some really fun offensive pieces. They can get you on any given night, but that pitching is roof.
Yeah. Ernie Clement had a big weekend for the Rays. He's second, third, and short eligible. With the injuries to Varsho and Santander, does enough spots open up that maybe Andres Jimenez coming back doesn't kill Clement's playing time?
I think so. I think he is like, this is just one of these player types that Ernie Clement, that MLB teams value. Are there like probably more deserving prospects of some of that playing time? Maybe. But there's something about being able to pencil in the quote unquote professional hitter. I know they're literally all professional hitters, but we all know what that term means, right? The guy that's going to go up there and give you a competent at bat 9 out of 10 times, 95 out of 100 times. That's Ernie Clement. Doesn't bring a lot for the fantasy game. He did go 12-12 last year and he has a decent average. He's in our world, 15 team main event. Ernie Clement's a player with that positional eligibility and playing time. Agreed. Yes. He was in my waterfall. Again, I got Mangum, so everyone behind him did not matter. But Clement was in it and in the upper quarter, I would say. So I was interested.
Mine too. I added him in one spot. And just, again, the eligibility, the playing time. I think that I was a little worried about Jimenez coming back, but the other injuries kind of, they'll find a way to get him at bats. And another guy who just never strikes out. Like, it's just that's such a nice batting average floor because, is just with a decent BABIP, he never strikes out. The batting average would be pretty good.
Yep. Yeah. And again, you got to get through $162 and you can't just have a bunch of 22-year-olds, even when you're not a great team. You got to have some guys who've been around the block, and Clement, it just fills a role.
Is it time to add Henry Davis?
Well, somebody in my main event thought so, and they did so $70 unopposed to Joey Bart.
I was going to say I was in. But not at that level, right? Wow. No, I think I was in for like 7 or 9 or something.
Yeah. I'm in the single day. Like I can't quit Henry Davis. I'll be there for the next 4 or 5 years, even though he's already 25.
By the way, your 7-year league was the high in all main events. So
it had to be. There's, maybe it was a mistype too, because since it is 70 and 7 makes so much more sense. Maybe their fingers slipped onto the 0 when they were trying to hit enter or something. But that is tough because that's some wasted bucks there. But generally speaking, as a single digit bid, I don't mind Henry Davis.
Yeah, I mean, Bart's out with a concussion, which you hate to see for a catcher because those things just tend to linger. I mean, Davis, the fact he's a number 1 pick, we can say it over and over again. He still was a number 1 pick. The pedigree's still there. Has not obviously done it in the majors, but yeah, I was in for a single digit. Like if I needed a catcher to drop sort of thing. I went back and forth between. I sadly still have Bo Naylor, who has been awful.
Yeah.
Would you rather have Bo Naylor or Henry Davis going forward here?
I think I take the shot on Davis. That could just be like a little let's try something new vibe. I do admit that. But I think I have a slight lean toward Davis.
What about someone asked in the chat, what about would you rather have Ryan Jeffers or Henry Davis?
Ooh. That one I think I'm still a little bit closer to Jeffers, despite the underwhelming output there. I mean, he's still batting top 3, I should say, pretty much daily over there. And you're not getting the power that you wanted, but you're still getting production, like a 255 average out of your catcher. That's just good, especially because with Jeffers, you were probably expecting closer to 230. So you've traded off the power for better batting average, but I think I still like Jeffers better.
Yeah, someone in the chat asked to talk about adding Tyler Stevenson. If you Tyler Stevenson in the league, I would definitely pick that one for sure.
Now that might be, I'm gonna guess that's like a one catcher,
one catcher, 12 team or something of thing. Yeah, that's obviously very possible there. Anybody else you liked on offense? I want to get to pitching here real quick, but anybody else you liked on offense? There was kind of that Kobe Mayo is back up, Josh Bell's on fire, Jake Fraley you mentioned is back. Anybody else you like that you really were jumping at?
I scooped Daniel Schneemann. And, he's not amazing, but he's doing some things. He's got 7 homers, couple steals, 240, 331, 448 slash. That's not too bad. He is in a little bit of a cold funk. The last 2 weeks haven't been great. I was kind of surprised to get him 21-1. I don't know. I think playing daily on a competent team, the Guardians are not some potent offense, but they're fine. Like they're a decent enough ball club. But as a lefty who doesn't sit, plays every day, I was actually surprised I got him so cheap. But happy to get Daniel Schneemann because he also has multiple positions. He has second, short, and outfield. So you love that infield, outfield combo there with Schneemann. So I liked him.
He was picked up in 5 leagues, and yours was the second lowest ad price. So
okay, yeah, I'll take it. So I sometimes you get lucky. There's so much, by the way. I don't know how we can ever quantify it without like gobs of data that I wouldn't know how to pour over. But the league you're in plays such a huge role in your success that you could never plan for.
Nope.
Because you never know how interested people are going to be in a particular player, and I think sometimes you have to go look at the whole community to see where your bids are. Like if you ever do one of those where it's like, oh my God, I bid $100 and the backup bid was $2. Sometimes it's because you made a terrible bid. Like that Henry Davis bid. Sometimes you just are in a league where it should have been $100, but you were just in that one league that
you were
no
busy
one
that
wanted.
day, or nobody needed that position that day. There's all kinds of things that work into that.
I take solace though when I go and I look, and every other league I would have been like the second or third. I wouldn't have won him everywhere by $50. I'm like, okay, I was in the right realm, but I just happened to be with 14 other players who didn't agree with me.
Yeah. What about starting pitching this week? It was an interesting week. There was not a lot of obvious pickups, but kind of some sneakier ones on the edge. The guy I want to ask you about first is Charlie Morton, who kind of blew up his price because he pitched really well again today. He was horrible at the start of the season, and
so bad.
He went into relief and kind of seemed like he figured some things out. Last 2 starts have been really good. Are you possibly back in on Charlie Morton at all? Are we doing this again, or is this you're like, this is 2 starts, I'm not going to do it?
I mean, I'm inching back in. Like, this is one where you separate the heart from the head. I like Charlie Morton. I like that he's turning it around too. I've loved him throughout his career. He's been a really fun player. I still have some trepidation though. This is still going to be at best a team streamer for me, where I might keep him on my reserve roster when I'm not using him. But he's going to the Athletics. We just got done talking about that park.
Yep.
No way I'm starting him. He does have the Angels at home the following week. That one a bit more compelling, even if the Athletics rock him. So this is still mostly a streamer, maybe a team streamer that you hang on to. Credit to him for figuring it back out though, because I thought he was headed toward retirement in April.
Yeah, I did too. Today was against the White Sox, so you got to temper expectations a little bit there. It was, obviously that's an easy way. But the other good start was against St. Louis, so it was a real major.
And they've been good.
Team. Yeah, they've been really good lately. So I was one for this morning I scrolled and I'm like, no way, and then I moved him into my bids. I did not end up getting him, but I moved him in my bids. I think you can squint a little bit there. Pitching's been really tough to find on the waiver wire as it is. Did you jump in on Mick Abel this week? He pitched really well like a week and a half ago, then got sent back down. Kind of everybody's like, oh, this sucks to go back AAA. But Taijuan Walker's been moved to the bullpen. Mick Abel is throwing at Toronto on Wednesday. I do get that Aaron Nole's coming back here at some point, so it might be a 1 or 2 start kind of thing. But Abel was picked up in a lot of leagues for sure. I think he was one of the higher guys. He was in 37 leagues. The highest bid in NFBC this week was actually in the main event was on Mick Abel. It was 145. Oh no, there was a 181 on Robert Garcia. There's and a 323 on Shane McClanahan. Believe it or not.
What the hell?
Wow. Yeah, and I'm looking at it as The interesting one is Doval. Obviously, there were two main events. He went for 346 and 228. So
wow.
Of guys who got picked up a lot, Abel had the highest bid. So he was 145.
That was in my league, by the way, the Abel bid.
Wow,
So I didn't
a lot of high bids in your league.
Yeah, like 145 with a 100 backup. I wasn't quite there because of the potential short-term nature of it with Mick Abel. I just don't know. I was really impressed. It was so cool watching him go toe-to-toe with Paul Skeens and matching him.
That was a great game.
It was such a fun game to watch. And you don't say that a lot about a Pittsburgh game, but those two going back and forth was great. You love getting a starter on a high-quality team, so I understand the interest in Abel. I just was shy of triple digits, excuse me. And there were only 3 leagues where he went triple digits. So again, I think I was within the community, but I happened to be in the league where they were hottest on him, and I tipped my cap, and that's okay. So I ended up going elsewhere with pitching, but I liked Abel. I had 42 out there, which would have gotten him for me in maybe about half or just under half of the leagues. So I'm okay with that.
Somewhere Jeff's at a high school graduation right now, just so mad we did 3 minutes on Mick Abel without using one pun.
And yet we didn't say anything about Kane. We didn't talk about how able he is. Yeah, Jeff just losing his mind at us.
Just shaking his fist at us. Just
negligence on our
screaming
part.
At the clouds right now. It's terrible.
He's got so many in the chamber.
What about Lance McCullers? Mostly taken in 15-teamers, but he was only 11% rostered in the RotoWire Online 12-team championship. Last 2 starts have been really interesting from McCullers in terms of a strikeout. If you need strikeouts, he had 12 strikeouts against the A's on whatever that was, the 28th, so like Thursday, and then 8 strikeouts against Seattle the week before that. He has 2 starts this week. He's against Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So the first one's really nice. Cleveland's a little more competent, but how do you feel about McCullers at the moment? Obviously, that first start was really rough. Didn't get out of the the second start. I guess didn't get out of the first inning. So a really rough outing against Cincinnati. After looking decent against the White Sox, and then it's been really good since then. 0, 2, and 3 earned runs with a bunch of strikeouts. How do you feel about McCullers right now?
I'm pretty intrigued. This guy's coming back after 3 years off. He's uber talented. Just first off, just a little applause just for even getting back, because battling with I couldn't even imagine battling all those injuries. He's been injured throughout his career, and then this is a 3-year hiatus. So even to get back and be anywhere near competent has been impressive for him. It's going to take some time to work off a third of an inning, 7 earned, like he had against Cincinnati. So don't look at his composite. I live in the game logs, folks. You've got to see how these ERAs are made and how. I
love when one start skews it too, because people just kind of scroll by, and the last 2 starts have been really nice.
Yeah, and then the start before that even was 4 innings with 2 unearned runs at Texas. There was only 2 punchies, but then, like you said, in the last 2, McCullers has gotten into his strikeout groove. Yeah, I think he was an easy must get in 12-teamers this week. That Pittsburgh-Cleveland double dip on the road. The only tough part is that the easier start against Pittsburgh is with Skeens. So the win potential just got undercut. And then he gets at Cleveland against Bybee. So wins might be difficult, but if you're just strikeout chasing, McCullers is definitely one to have. I'm rooting for him. I really hope this continues, because when healthy, we know he can be an absolute stud.
He was the most added player in the 12-team on my
as he should have been.
201 leagues added him. Max was 126 there. Right before the top 4 were all pitchers too. It was McCullers, Mick Abel, Robert Garcia, and Edward Cabrera were the top 4 in number of leagues added, at least. So interesting there. There was a 692 on Camilo Doval in the online championship. There was someone went fully all in on that one.
I mean, closer on a not bad team. Named, we're not specking. They've taken Walker out. They've put Doval in. Now, we don't know how long that's going to last. 692 is far more than I ever would. But I understand pushing for him, putting your chips in there.
I did. The first thing I did was check to see if it was available in leagues. So I would have gone very aggressive. I wouldn't have been 692 aggressive, but I would have been probably over $200 aggressive, especially if you need saves. Like like you said, named. Like we don't get that very much these days. There aren't that like this is our closer very often.
That's what made Walker appealing is he was named early, and so we all started moving him up our board. So I don't even blame you for going. I was hot on Walker. The other drafters saved me from myself by taking him, because I would have had him everywhere if I'd have been allowed. And by allowed, I mean taking him where I was ready to take him.
Right, not in the first round or any means like that. I'm looking at that draft board. I got Walker in the 5th round. I took him before Tanner Scott and before Jeff Hoffman, who is kind of some issues there.
No problem with either of those.
He was kind of in that last range. I didn't take him over I don't know. Helsley or Munoz or someone like that.
But, right.
Where he was kind of moving up towards that range a little bit. I did take him at the way end of that tier. So, it's not like I passed up someone obvious for him, but, who knew that I just could have picked up Emilio Pagan and called it that.
Or Suarez, who had a bad spring, pushed him way
19
down.
saves or whatever.
Yeah, that would have been nice. How
do you feel about Kumar Rocker? We mentioned before that he's going to get a start here, slot into the rotation with Evaldi going on the IL. How do you feel about Rocker kind of moving forward here? I mean, obviously we know him from Vanderbilt. The stuff's really good. The whole story with his draft and everything. He's feel like we've been in our lives for a long time. But now he's starting this week, coming back off the IL. How did you feel about a Rocker bid this week? The minor league strikeout numbers have been absurdly high, even his limited innings.
It really has. So you like seeing him get the swing and miss going at the minor league level with Kumar Rocker. It's your classic upside play. So you got to go in eyes wide open, meaning that the downside is still severe, right? You can't just go in thinking like, oh, this will be great no matter what. No, it won't. We don't even know how long it's going to last. Going to Tampa Bay, as you pointed out, not playing as scarily as we were worried, but Rocker can turn apart scary sometimes when he's off his game. Well, so there is plenty of risk.
He pitched in Sacramento this year and gave up 7 hits and 5 earned in 2 innings. So
there you go. So there is risk here. I understand picking him up and starting him in a 15-teamer. I'm probably stashing at best in a 12-teamer to see where it goes. I don't think I would start him this week, but the upside is too rich to not roster Kumar Rocker in a 15-teamer.
Yeah, kind of where I fell on him when he was available. I was definitely having some bids. I was in like the 20-ish range somewhere in there, so not going crazy, 18. But kind of in that range where I would be happy to get him there. And it was not a dollar bid, but not a $50 bid either. So interesting there. Any other pitchers you liked? Were you in on Bryce Elder with the fact that he's pitching for the Braves? He's just so kind of middling.
But no.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disparage any Longhorns here.
That's okay. No, we deserve it. We don't even get me started. I can go way too long on their inability to hit with runners on. But no, I like Bryce Elder because he's a Longhorn, but I don't go for him. You know who I did like? Richard Fitz.
And talk to me about Richard Fitz then.
So coming off the IL for the Red Sox, the tough part is he's got the Yankees lurking on the weekend as part of the 2-step. But it is a 2-step that starts with the Angels.
Yep.
And at least, if you get the front end of it and maybe they skip them, don't hesitate to skip them for the weekend, Red Sox. Push them back. Let somebody else come in and push them to the Tampa Bay series the following week. I will forego the 2-step there. But I don't mind. I'm still going to start Fitz, even with the idea that he's going to go to the Yankees on the weekend. There's a good pitcher who went on the IL. He's coming back. He showed some things last year. He had some spring buzz. There's Richard Fitz proponents out there. I'm pretty keen on him. I didn't get him. He went a little bit higher than I had. Let's see here. Yeah, I lost 27-15. I was the second place, but as you can see, by a decent bit, I was behind. I wish I'd have been maybe a little bit more aggro there. I was a little bit more focused on my hitting, but I think he can be a quality pitcher on this Red Sox ball club here. I know they have not been amazing this year, but I think you're in position for a potential win. It's not going to be huge strikeouts, but I think it's going to be useful innings pretty consistently in that 4 to 6 inning range. Sometimes he'll fall lower. The tough part is if they don't move him off that weekend start, and there's no reason to think they will. I'm saying we need to get lucky here. But if they don't, it's the Yankees twice in a row after this Angels start, which is scary because it should be aces only against the Yankees right now. The only reason it won't be is because it's a weekly 2-step. So you have to take the Yankees start to get the LA start with Fitz.
Speaking of Boston, is Brayan Bello a full drop right now?
Pardon me, taking a drink there. I think so.
I had 3 pitchers I was going to add. I didn't get any 3 of them, but Bello was my drop. I didn't drop him, but he was the guy that was going to drop. He hasn't pitched 5 innings in 5 straight starts.
He's a twin.
Yeah, he's a
Minnesota twin.
Except he gives up more base runners. His whip
right. Without the good.
I just feel like I'm trying to not get in this. I liked this guy a year ago, and you watch a few highlights and you see some pitching ninja gifts, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm backing up Bello, but swing strike rate's 8%, whips 163. He can't go 5 innings. As I got through my guys, usually at that spot, I don't have any drops in pitching. Here we go. Who am I drop? I looked closer at Bello, and I thought he was a drop, but even in a 15-teamer, he has not pitched more than 5 innings since May 2nd.
I think you're completely right to cut Bello, even in a 15. I know you look at a 3.83 ERA, and we just got done talking about how there's not much in 15. So you might think, how could you possibly cut him?
Yeah.
Y'all, don't get seduced by the ERA. 163 whip is horrendous. 8% swinging strike rate says he ain't striking us out. There's just not enough here for Bello right now. He could get it going down the line, and maybe you want to circle back to him, but don't be afraid to do that, right? You talked about how you see a GIF or you're still interested because you liked them previous years.
Yep.
It can be tough to cut guys that you like. Understand that doesn't mean you hate them and that you'll never revisit them. You might come back around to him 2 weeks later and say, now's the time to pick up Bello. But I don't think he should be on a roster right now, because when are you ever confident using him? He gets the Angels this week. No Yankees for him, which is fortunate. But then the following week, it's a Tampa Bay Yankees 2-step. What are you going to get? 8 innings with 7 runs and 4 strikeouts or something for that?
God, I hope you get 7 runs.
Only 7. Yeah.
Can I take the over right now?
I mean, why not? Because they're both at home too, with that Yankees one lurking on the weekend. By the way, that means 2 weekends in a row will be all Red Sox Yankees, because it's the very next weekend they play each other Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Someone asked, is Miller droppable for Duran, Palencia, or Devin Williams? I don't know which Miller that is. If you tell me if it's Shelby Miller, sure. If it's Mason Miller, no. If it's I don't know any other Millers.
It got to be just those two, right? So yeah, let's assume it's Shelby.
It's got to be Shelby. I mean, he's easily droppable for Duran, easily droppable for Palencia, and probably dropped. Apparently, Luke Weaver had a hamstring tweak tonight in the Sunday night game. So Devin Williams actually looked good. I know he weirdly came in the whatever it was, 58.
Oh wait, they're saying it's Mason Miller. Sorry to interrupt you. They're saying it's Mason.
Oh,
can't. No. Don't overreact to the cold spell here. I know it's been rough, but unless something happens where they take him out of the role or move him to the IL for some reason, if this is an injury precursor, but until then,
44% strikeout rate.
Yeah, it's a bad run. Like it's 8 runs or 10 runs in 6 outings in the middle of May. It stinks, but I'm not reacting to it. I can't.
Still the guy. We went there. I think I hold him. Our friend Peter Shanky asked the question, are we dropping Royce Lewis in 10s and 12s? We did cover that a little bit earlier.
We said we're picking him up.
I think both Paul and I are holding or picking up Royce Lewis.
Yeah,
I think
we're chasing.
The 130 BABIP and the history of production. I think that I think I'm holding on to Mason Miller. Or I hold on to Royce Lewis. And I'm holding on to Mason Miller too, by the way.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Mason Miller, before we jump out of here, real quick on relievers. There was not a lot available. We mentioned Camilo Doval multiple times in the show. Obviously, he was there. He was 80% rostered in the 12-2 online championship. So there's there was 20% there. He was available in 2 main events. We talked about how he went for huge numbers there. Was there anything else you could find in saves, Paul? Because I'm in trouble in saves. I had Ryan Walker. I had some issues there. I need some saves badly. Help me out. Is it Calvin Fauché? What are we doing here?
Was Fauché even available for you? He wasn't available in either of mine.
He was 26% rostered. He was available in mine. I grabbed him, and I guess I got thrown this week, but man, I'm not watching Marlins games, that's for sure. He had 2 saves this week, but someone else get this. Finding saves is tough right now. You mentioned Pagan, a couple of guys earlier, but it's not been that here comes the $200, $300 closers every week. We've not had that kind of run. I think Robert Garcia is probably the answer if he was available. He was 41% rostered in 12 teamers. He was only available in 2 or 3 main events. But what do you do? Is there anything like really guys you really like specking on for closers right now? What are you doing if you're in need of saves at the moment?
So I was in the market for a new spec. As I mentioned, I cut Lucas Ursig because he got hurt. I wanted Yates. Kirby Yates. That's
who I wanted too. He was taken in that league where I needed a closer. I like that one too.
That's my big one there. And I got 27 was the bid there, which I was only at 11. In my other league, I went for him too because I need saves in both. And I lost 14-13, which is much more painful.
I think I had 13. I lost 37-13. He went for 37. Yeah.
I mean, look, a partial closer on the Dodgers can get you the full-time saves of most teams. And so I understand.
Evan Phillips out for the year with Tommy John.
Right.
Kirby Hayes has done it before. Tanner Scott's struggling. He's a lefty. Vesey is a lefty. Banda's a lefty. Alexis Diaz is maybe lurking in the minors somewhere. But I think that if they get a righty closer, it's probably Yates, right? Because Trinan's out.
For sure.
Kopech will be back soon, but I think it's Yates.
I saw some great the reliever recon had a great little tidbit that I didn't think of it, and then as soon as I saw them say it, it clicked. for the first 4 games of the week when they play the Mets, Tanner Scott's going to be linked to Soto wherever he is, wherever that final at bat's going to come. And if it's not in the 9th, Tanner Scott's going to pitch in the 7th or 8th.
Yeah.
And so that's going to open up the door for Yates. And like you said, the experience that he has doing it. Now he is old and he does get hurt, but while healthy and he's coming back, I think Yates was an interesting spec for sure. I really wanted him in both leagues. I didn't get him in either, but I think he's the guy to go for right now.
Are you worried at all about Tanner Scott? Because I am 0% worried here. I think
no.
28% strikeout rate, 3% walk rate. Like there's been a couple bad things here. I think the only issue is, like you said, when Soto comes up, he's going to pitch the 7th or 8th. But I think in terms of pitching wise, the home runs have been a little bit of a bummer. But I think that'll kind of regulate the BABIP's high. I'm not worried about Tanner Scott at all.
Not even a little. When I was buying Tanner Scott in the spots that I got him, I was never expecting like 35 saves. Yeah. I'll take 25 and everything that comes with it. And don't even get me started on the fact that he's got a 3% walk rate, a career best. Yep. So as they are often want to do in LA, they've already fixed this guy. They've made him better than he already was.
Always his issue.
Yep. So they've already made him better. He'll be fine. Don't worry about the ERA.
Yeah, it's tough to find guys that are closing. I think that, like we mentioned before, Robert Garcia would have been my guy, but I mean, that had to be last week because Luke Jackson. I think Garcia had 2 saves this week. He's clearly the guy they're leaning on a little bit more. Although Chris Martin's going to be back soon, but I still think it's Garcia for a bit.
I like the Garcia move there too. And they traded Nathaniel Lowe for him. Like there's a big trade there. They have a lot of love for Garcia. They're going to put him in big roles. This is the same as last year where there just aren't that many closers because when a closer goes down, they usually go to 2 or 3 guys. They don't just go to the next guy.
It used to be like a closer goes down, there is one guy we're all going to bid $280 on him. Now it's the closer gets hurt. There's 7 guys that are getting 2 saves.
It's a nightmare.
It's a nightmare, and it's just the way it is. And you compound that with the fact there's already a bunch of teams that they're playing that way anyway, even without a closer. It's tough. It's when a guy goes down or loses his job, like Ryan Walker did this week. If you don't have Doval, like you're.
That's why Cade Smith never gets cut, even though he's behind one of the sturdiest closers out there. Because if something ever did happen to Class A, Cade Smith is $700 bid.
Yeah. Do you think if Luke Weaver is actually, I know there's a hamstring tweak, if he's out, you think go back to Devin Williams? I would imagine.
I do.
So, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. They might pair him with like Mark Leiter might get one every once in a while. Tim Hill might get one if there's lefties, but I think Devin Williams would go back to being the A guy.
I was savage on the broadcast today. They're like, "Oh, Tim Hill was in the bullpen. He could have come in to face Freddie Freeman, but they brought in Nestor Cortez instead." And I'm like, "Oh my god, jeez, kick Yankees fans were down." My god,
right?
You know who I am worried about closer wise before I get out of here is Kenley Jansen.
Yes, age might be catching up to Kenley.
1.5 whip, strikeout rate's down to 21%. I kind of was like last guy in a tier in a main event. And I ended up with him, and I'm actually he's one that I'm actually concerned that it might go sideways really fast.
I did, and there's no one to like really spec on with the Angels that you're like, oh, let me back this up all badass with somebody. There's nobody there.
Who would it be? Do you think? I mean, obviously Ben Joyce is out for the
Ryan
year.
Harvey? I don't know. You like that reference there?
I do like that reference. That was good. I think it could be him, but Troy Percival's coming.
You know who it might be, and I actually do have a little bit of love for him. Robert Stevenson, who just came back from injury, but
threw 3 pitches and left the game,
and then got hurt. That's the only thing I was going to say. And I hate to laugh because you feel bad for a guy like that works back from getting hurt and immediately gets hurt again. If
is it weird though? Serious, is it weird that Ron Washington said after the Friday's game that he expects him to be fine? Like, is that like in life or for like baseball? It's really weird that
Ron Washington's looking long term. He's like, he's not dead. He's fine. We're like, wait, what about the baseball aspect? Oh, baseball, he's out for the year. But for his entire life, he's going to be fine.
How do you pitch 3 pitches, go out of the bicep injury your day to day when you're off a year and a half, been out, or 2 years?
No idea.
Like, it's wild.
Absent it being Stevenson, because again, we have to keep an eye on that health piece. It's probably Ryan Zefferson. I still think there's a world, and it's probably going to be with his next team. You're never going to get me to quit Reed Detmers, so don't even try. I love that guy.
I really want him to go somewhere else.
But I do think it's just going to have to be the next team that he's on where he explodes.
Hell, Hunter Strickland's in that bullpen.
Are you serious?
Yes.
He might actually be kind of sneaky, as unfortunate as that is.
I bet you the rogue drafter bid like 380 on him this week. He loves Hunter.
Oh, he's been terrible this year. I'm still going to say Zefferson. Ryan Zefferson is your guy.
Terrible. Is it 7.7% strikeout rate and 15.5% walk rate's bad?
So a negative
0 ERA with that too.
So you think a -8% strikeout minus walk is bad? Is that what you're telling me?
0 ERA.
Right. That's all I'm going off of.
Yeah.
0 ERA and 0.82 WHIP for Hunter Strickland.
It would be so Angels if Hunter Strickland's closing games for them.
It really would.
In
It
July,
really
it'd be so
would.
Angels, but cool. Anything else on your mind, Paul? Anything else we're talking? We've gone a little bit long here. We always do that with you because you have so much good stuff to say. Anything else you want to
Because I never
bring up and mention?
shut up.
Yeah,
No. I had a great time. I love the show. I love being on it. I love watching it too with you guys. So I really appreciate you having me on. Can't believe we're already at June. I love the grind of the season though. I really
how's your season going so far? Are you doing well in leagues?
It's going right. I'm sitting in the middle. And here's the thing. I've been in the main event long enough to know that you shouldn't really give a damn where your actual standing is right now. It's about where you're at in your categories and what kind of movement can you have. I talked about how I'm on that precipice with the steals where I'm at 30. The next move up is 44. I need 14 to gain a point. I am in danger. Like if I don't.
At what point do you punt?
Basically, if Mangum doesn't solve it, I mean, not solve it. He can't solve it alone. But if he doesn't come on and like start stealing right away for me, it's time to liquidate the steals or any steals only guys that I might have. I only have 30. I clearly don't have that many, and just focus on the other categories and try to win the league as opposed to worrying about any sort of main situation with that one. And then my other main, it is a similar situation where speed is a problem, but I'm in the mix. I have 51. I'm in second to last. And then there's 52, 53, 56, 56, 56, 59 ahead of me. So I feel good. I feel good where my teams are.
In the other league, you give it like all-star break before you decide to punt? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then because
you catch up, and then because if you caught up, like all of a sudden you probably get like 5 or 6 points to be gettable at that point.
Oh, it's game changing. If I get into that 60s range there in relatively short order in that other league, I'm fully in the mix again. And then all of a sudden I can start focusing elsewhere. But yeah, I like where both my teams are. I like where my team is in TARF, the Texas Area Roto Fantasy League, my first year there. So yeah, I'm feeling good about things right now. I got some injuries, I got some things, but I can make a run everywhere right now. And I'm number 1 in Raz Slam. I think I need to start playing more best ball. I do well in Raz Slam every year, but and the less you have to do with it in terms of in-season management, the better, right? Because we all have too many FAAB leagues is the problem.
What you should do is go look at the TGFBI overall, and I'll tell you what's going on there. If you're number 1 in Raz Slam, check out number 1 in TGFBI. It's good stuff.
Is that going to be somebody I know?
It might be.
Well, first off, that's impossible pretty much not to, but I see it is, of course, you let's just say number 1 with a bullet.
Because I've had some bad days. I'm like, I wonder if I fell to 7th, and I'm like, still first.
33.79 with a 31.48 behind you. Now you ain't won anything yet, and you know that.
You want the best part? Who do you think my SP1 is there?
Is it not somebody awesome?
It is not somebody awesome.
Is it like
it is somebody awesome, but it's someone who's not pitched yet this year.
Oh, so
Garrett Cole.
Oh yeah, awesome. Because I was going to say Strider, but he has pitched.
Oh, I have Strider on that team too.
That's kind of amazing. That I was going to guess. And do you have Hunter Brown on that team?
Hunter Brown, 8th round. Yes.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So who's hitting for you? Do you have like a PCA or anything?
Otani, Trey Turner, PCA, James Wood.
I'm nailing some of the guesses on who you got here.
Senga in the 13th round. Lodolo late. Drew Rasmussen 20th round.
Oh yeah, you got a crew. I see why this team's doing so well.
My dude Jonathan Aranda in the 23rd round, who I love. I love that guy.
He's so awesome.
Just a hitter.
Yep, that's exactly it. He's a hitter. And the only reason he didn't break out sooner is because his glove is so bad they couldn't commit to him these previous years. They just every time he came up, they're like, "Nah, you suck so bad at defense." But they finally just let him hit this year, and he's shown what he can do.
It'd be really fun to win something with your SP1 getting 0 innings and being out before.
That'd be really impressive. Well, and I know anything can happen, like a one-off or whatever, but like I always push back on people when they say this one pick is why their season didn't win. That's never true.
That's football, not baseball.
Exactly. That's a football thing.
I took Adrian Peterson the year he had the full season suspension, and my season was over at that point. Like it's football.
Done.
It's done.
It's done.
Last question in the chat for somebody who's been asking: would you rather have the side of Jacob Wilson and Brent Rooker, or I'm assuming it's Ketel Marte and Lawrence Butler? Give me Marte and Butler on my choice.
Yeah, give me Marte and Butler as well. I will say this though, Jacob Wilson, much better player than I thought. I thought he was
me too. A lot of people ask me about him just as an A's person, And I was like, I think that I just don't know if the hitting's gonna be quite there yet. Man, he's been great.
Thought he was just Luis Arise.
Yeah.
I literally thought it was just a 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Don't even look at it any further. I was wrong. He's got way more fantasy juice, and I love it because whenever you guys talk about the A's and how much you've gotten rid of them, which I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I've always liked them since the Moneyball. They were always kind of my second team.
Yep.
But I hate the aspects that you hate, but I still like so many of their players.
Understood. I like their offense too. I was at the A's Dodgers game 2 weeks ago, and Jacob Wilson's entire rooting section was 2 sections over because he went to high school in LA. So it was his first time playing in LA. He hit 2 bombs too. It was amazing. The place was going. That one section was louder than anybody else in the stadium was coming.
That is so. I mean, he has 7 homers already, and I think most of us thought he would get 7 all year if he was.
I would have. If you give me a guess on home runs of the year, I probably would have said 5 to 7. And he's got 7 already. So
very impressive.
It's been fun,
so despite that, though, we're going against him in that trade. We like Marte and Butler a bit better.
Yeah, I'm the same way there too. And Butler's been warming up too, which it's been good to see. Last 3 weeks have been pretty good. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for listening. It was a very, very active chat. We really do appreciate everybody weighing in and chatting with each other, chatting with us. Sorry we can't get to every question. There was a lot of stuff in there, but hopefully we answered some stuff for you. I want to thank Paul for jumping on. Always one of my favorite guest members of the show. Paul, you're really, really good at this. You're fun to talk baseball with. You know what you're talking about. It's always a lot of fun. So thanks for saying yes more than anything. I know that everybody's busy and stuff to do, so I appreciate that. I want to thank everybody for listening. We'll be back next week. Jeff will be out of town again. We've got the wonderful Ryan Bloomfield joining us from Baseball HQ.
Ooh, that'd be fantastic.
Really good guest and sounds exactly like Matthew McConaughey. So there's the added bonus of the how good the voice is. So look forward to talking to Ryan. Really good dude. So anyway, Paul, everybody in the chat saying do more of these. So there you go. Just so you know, people out there like you as well. So I want to thank you for joining us. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back at you next week. Have a good week. Have a good fantasy week, and everybody take care.